Thixo wethu othandekayo kule nkqubo yaka-agriculture, uNkulunkulu othembekile, iba nabo ke Nkosi besenza Nkosi imigudu, kodwa wena njengoThixo wenze kwenzeke Thixo wethu othandekayo. Simema wena ke Nkosi emini xa sawuqala le program, Thixo wethu othandekayo, nguyela umphathiswa Thixo wethu olungileyo, umgqotywa wakho omonyulileyo for le mini Thixo wethu othandekayo. Sezawuthetha nabantu bakho uNkulunkulu olungile. Hlala Thixo wethu encamini yelwimi lakho, ube nguThixo omkhanyiselayo, ube nguThixo omnika ubulumko ebulumkweni. Sicela Nkosi zonke ezi zinto sikuthembile, ngoba siyayazi xa sikhala kunguThixo wena uyasiva. Banathi ke Nkosi seza kumamela, ube nguThixo ongenelelayo, onika icebo. Zonke ezi zinto sisicela sithembile okuba wena uzasenzela egameni nasegunyeni loYesu Kristu umNazaretha. Amen.
Sibulele kuba umfundisi ngamazwi amnandi kakhulu esivulela lemini namhlanje ukuze ibe imini yempumelelo. Siyabulela kakhulu, sikhokhelwe emandleni kaNkulunkulu. I will be driving the program for part of the time while I'm waiting for my colleague who had agreed that he will be the program director for the day, but he just got umphathiswa ke umsuseli ngathi afike ngasenayo nalo office ebeqeshwe kuyo uba akayiqondanga loo nto leyo. Kodwa ke seyinto bayavala nomphathiswa ndiyazi bazawuphinde balungiselelane. The Honorable MEC will outline why are we here today. It's a very important engagement as we prepare for the coming financial year. And the Honorable MEC preparing for her policy speech, but she did feel it necessary that she would like to engage the stakeholders before she tables what she will be presenting during the week. And she felt like it's important that she could get a perspective of the stakeholders that she will be presenting the departmental programs for and to when she presents the policy speech. Hence, she called this day. I will not be long because the Honorable MEC will do the opening and the welcoming, and she is also responsible for doing the opening remarks and giving us an electoral mandate. Then from that, government officials will outline the sectoral overview and the departmental programs, just broadly. We won't be talking the policy speech, but we'll be saying what is it that this government is doing on the sector and how has the sector performed, which I think is a very important thing. Kuba lokho nje masiqhubeka sibheka phambili kuyafuneka nathi simane sisihlama hlongwane sizihlaba uba ingaba lento siyenzayo iyawenza na umahluko ebomini babantu. Uba iyawenza umahluko kuphapo sisalele khona zeziphi izinto ekufuneka siziphucule khona ukuze ibe kanti oko urhulumente azimisela ukwenza kube kanti kwenzeka kakuhle kakhulu. We also felt it important that as we are all going through this scourge, foot and mouth disease, which is threatening everybody at this stage, let's have a dedicated presentation on that, because I think it's a topical issue at this stage and all the farmers are worried, scared, and not certain as to what is going and what government is actually doing around the foot and mouth disease. We felt like we should lift it amongst everything else now that we've got an opportunity to have a broader audience like this of the farmers. Then it will be open for farmers to make their inputs because this is their meeting after all, hosted by the Honorable MEC. Then we will summarize those as we close this meeting, and that will be the end of the day. But I've also been asked by the organizers that at 10:30 we'll have to break for tea. So as we run this program, we'll have to be mindful of those commitments. Mphathiswa ke umzingo wakho itheko lelakho ndizawunikela kuwe ngokumphathiswa ngokweprogram. Okay, uthi kumphathiswa kunzima ke umcimbi we-credentials and apologies. Are there any apologies that we can note?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kokwan. Le ndoda ibimapha ke igama layo ngubani igama layo? Mthoza, Wiseman Mthozami Kokwan. Uyi-DDG phaa department next to the HOD. Kangazichaza igama lakhe. Qha ndimazi ke uba ungumnu uthi ungudlamini ke. Umama ke wamxelela uba ungudlamini. Umama ke waxelela utata wakhe uba ungudlamini. Ndiyanixelela abantu balapha utata abaninzi ngoomama basaziyo isiduko somntana. Nina niyaxelela, nivile? Ya, enkosi kakhulu. No. Partly ucoverishile lo msebenzi bendizawenza apha uMr. Kokwana ukuba next week on the 26th, and right, we are going to have the presentation, presenter a policy speech by parliament. Policy speech ke into department okanye urhulumente enza izibhambathiso into ba izinto uzazenza njani kulo nyaka mali. So we are going to present a policy speech for the financial year 26-27. Right? So kula policy speech we base our base document from the Sonaka president. Pofman Kalap see base kwi January 8 statement say ANC because it's the ruling party. Sisuke ku base document ye January 8 ANC I manifesto size kwi Sonaka president. After Sonaka president ibe yisopa state of the province address ka honorable premier utat Mabuyane in our case. Emveni koko ke all departments sit down and plan accordingly. Ndizawuthi qaba nje few things endicinga into bana zi-highlights for our department. Ngamane ndiluma ke ndinantsika kweli lesibini lwimi. Ukuba what are the main catalytic projects that the department is going to push kule financial year? Zintoni, then it details and the presentations zizakwenziwa ngalamagosa ebekuchazwa apha. I-reason ke yoba sibizele meeting into yokuba as we go forward and we are doing our work, we want especially farmers, our stakeholders to contribute and give inputs. Ningazokhalaza ke maqabane ndiyacela. Sicela nje inputs ndiyayazi abantu bayithanda inhlanganiso abanye bacinga xa bayenhlanganisweni bazela uzocomplaina nokhalaza hayi ndiyayicela lo ndawo. If unthe kanti unento oqomba ungafa ungayikhalazelanga uthi ke ngoku what do you suggest? But your suggestion should be within the limits of the legislation. Siyavana ne? Denze basingalungi into engalwisiyo apha. Ndiyayazi abanye abantu xa enhlanganisweni ulolimela lolizembe alole zonke izikhali athi ndizabafumana. Ndicela ingabi yonhlanganiso yondifumana ke le. Kodwa ibe inhlanganiso yethu yoba si-contribute positively ukuba singayi-enhance njani i-agriculture. Urhulumente wethu has taken a decision yokuba i-agriculture is the mainstay of the province. Izaba yi-backbone of this province. So wonke umuntu ngoku ujonge kwi-agriculture we should have observed uba i-auto sector is closing down. Zininzi nezinye into imisebenzi yaphela, abanye benu banama-girlfriend nama-boyfriend ne-relatives kweza factory zemoto eBhayi okanye eTenarha okanye eGqeberha abasebephelelwe ngumsebenzi nezizalwane. So i-agriculture will remain the mainstay because we pride ourselves to have the land. Sinomhlaba into ekumele basizingce ngayo, sinemfuyo ekumele basizingce ngayo. Uyabona ke abantu abangamaXhosa nabangotata bayayazi uba kudla ngothiwa kwezinye areas andisho kule yakho indawo mhlawumbe zangenzeka kodwa kwezinye kuthiwe indoda engenankomo ayinawuthetha apha phezu kwethu. So imfuyo yethu libhongo lethu. It is our pride that at least as Africans we must own livestock. I-department ke is there to support you. I support bethuna inkxaso. Ndiyanazi ke nina ngade nifuna i-department inenzele. Inkxaso department is only supporting the farmers, whether they are crop producers, livestock, njalo. So sizele into bana we just seek your inputs in enhancing our policy speech. bazawuyenza presentation, then we know you are going to identify and advise us, because we believe that as people that are custodians or are farmers, at least we should hear your voice. We want to hear that silent voice. Singayiboni siyibona ku Facebook. Andali abantu baka Facebook ngama bathanda uthetha pha. Kodwa thina masingothuki noko sibe siyazi ba at least we have tried to cover everyone else, of course within the ambits or the limits of the legislation. So sizele loo nto qha apha senzela uba ke nithi naxa sisebenza nisibona nithi tyhini yilaa nto and ndiyavuya because nam ndandicontributile pha. Umzekelo, sine-programs apha esicinga into yobana we're going to drive them to change the lives of the Eastern Cape. Human Rights Commission report, the Eastern Cape is one of the poorest provinces in the country. In some areas, there is child mortality, meaning kubakho abantwana abafayo xa bagqiba uzalwa ngenxa yendlala. So in all what we're going to do and all our efforts, we are going to fight and eradicate poverty. Ke ndive ke abantu isingesimo sisikhulu banyana sawe alleviate. Mina ke andifuna ulisebenzisela gama. Ndifuna ukuthi we are going to eradicate and do away with poverty. Ngeba ndifuna ukuthi ke ngesixhosa siyisiphule nengcambu indlala kweliphondo. Senzani ke ukwenza lonto? One, sine program esi-introduce leyo kulo nyaka ethi lima lokulima. Abanye benu sebezifakile applications bikhutshwe last year. Ela lima lokulima ke lelo uthi make sure babantu basebenza umhlaba lo bendithetha ngawo. La mhlaba ke lo mhlaba ndithetha ngawo ngulo ulilifa kuthi. Nayazi mos. We are the only province that had 9 wars of dispossession that were fought for 100 years ngenxa yomhlaba, because kwabakho abantu ababona ba man asifanelanga basingahlala kulo mhlaba utyebe kangaka nomhle kangaka masibulawe. Then there were those wars. As we are seated here, we are remnants of those wars, because omawukhulu bethu, our great grandfathers fought on our behalf and we now exist. Sisindileke kwela dabi ndilifanisaneli ke befundisi bam. Amasirayeli alwisa amaPalestina emhlabeni wawo eGaza ngenxa befuna ioil. So nathi ubakhe sayeka sangawusebenzisa lo mhlaba ndithi abantu ababewulwela uninzi lwabo bafa. Funeka siyazi ba isike sithengisile ke ngalwa umzabalazo. Siyavana mos. So elalima lokulima ke ngoku abantu badibana sitheke iproposal yethu mababe yi20 kwi-radius of 5 kilometers balima igadi okanye intsimi zabo. Sivuselela ke ibuyambo kuba abantu ke abakhule ngeminyaka engaphambili mhlawumbe ama-2K angangaya lento ndiyithethayo. Abantu abamnyama babethanda ukuba nento ekuthiwa lilima. Ngoku strengthenisha ngokwenza la project ithi lima lokulima into yokuba one sifuna si-strengthenishe social cohesion. Ke niyeke le nto ufuna ubuzenzela wedwa kodwa bakhona abantu bamanyane. People must be united towards this cause. Silwe indlala sonke, because we can't do it. We can't succeed doing it alone as government. We need your involvement. Okwesibini, sifuna wonke umzona esiqwana nasomhlaba. If you have a piece of land in your yard, in your own yard, at least you must work the land. Izi efforts ke zolwana le poverty. Basendibona balelunye utshaba esinalo olu. Siphinde kakhona sibe ne program yokuba sincedise kwabafuyi. Sithe bhazalana so sharing sheds, because we know that abantu abafuye igusha bathi ke Councillor Mnxaso, as I welcome you, uba uboya bethu indyebo yethu. So xa sakha as sharing shed nisibona simane sizihand over, we want to ensure that uboya begusha zabo buya improve. Xa kumane i-department incedisa abantu ngamayeza mhlawumbi ngexesha elithile ndiyanazi niyayikhalazela la yho oko besilindile de lagqitha ixesha ade wafike la mayeza. Sube sisenzela uba improve imfuyo yenu ibe right, so that xa nifumana uboya kwi-sharing shed kuclean anizuba nengxaki yosusa izinto mhlawumbi umnga okanye ezanto izanama ezinto zihlaba zihlala eboyeni begusha, because kuzabe kuclean. noko ndiyathemba kubana xa seke niyobuthengisa izawuba bhetele imali esizayifumana. Uyabona ke amafama into endiwathanda ngayo into yoba nanganeyifumana imali koba boya begushiwo abathanda ukhalaza. Asoze batsho uba heyi ndiyifumene, hayi noko intle kulo nyaka. Aniyithethi loo nto. Abanye babo ziimillionaires ngenxa yoba boya qha. Naxa sinikezela mhlawumbi ngemfuyo, masithi inkomo ezimithiyo namathokazi, senzela uba improve umhlambi. Xa sinikezela ngeenkunzi senzela uba umhlambi improve. Siyayazi uba laa nkunzi izawukhwela zonke kulaa lali okanye kulaa ngingqi yenu okanye efameni. At least nibe ne-product okanye amathole asegazini. Sikhuthaza abantu uba mabalimi. Ndiyayazi abantu uba abanye bazawukhalazela iitrekta abalapha, yho abasazifuna igandaganda abantu. Ishushile ke kangangomlinganiselo webudget esinayo ii-tractors. Asikwazi ufikelela, i-demand is so high. Kodwa siyakhuthaza noko xa sithe sayikhupha makusetyenziswane maqabane. Yini ungasose ucakubuza uzayifuya, kodwa uyayazi uba apha ebumelwaneni bakho bayadinga abanatrekta. La social cohesion ke bendisithi make sithandaneni mani. Siyeke laa nto yoba nomona ufuna utyeba wedwa ube ingangalala, kodwa abantu abakungqongileyo bayasokola. Siyavana mos ngale nto. Enye into ke kudala amafama ethu ngakumbi lamnyama asoloko kwathiwa zii-emerging farmers, amafama akhasayo. Sine-program apha esifuna uyi-enhancer kulo nyaka mali uzayo uba noko mabade bagraduate kobu bu-emerging farmer and become commercial farmers so that they too join the value chain. Noko ke sithi nathi sinawo amafama esinozingca ngawo amnyama angasomashishini. Yabona ke inye into endingayithandiyo ngamafama wekutamnyama, andazi noba kodwa it's a combination of a number of things. Either ngumona, kukuba selfish, or ke andazi okanye bayiqondi uba injani. Uyabona sibethwa ngaba bamhlophe, the white farmers, they are so united. Nditsho ekhona khoya apha phakathi kwethu, and I appreciate that. Ndiyarhalela uba khe siyikope laa nto because bona they support each other. Uba bayabona omnye ngathi noko uyasilela kule kona, they come in and support that one so that they grow together. Nathi ndiyarhalela ke siyizame mani laa nto. Intle laa nto, uyayithatha ke laa nto xa intle uyisebenzise. Ndiyanicela ke mafama ukuthi yekeni le nto uba ingathi uzawuwedwa amanye amafama abesokola. Let's support each other so that at least we achieve the objective that government has set for us. Sinethamsanqa ke thina ngoba urhulumente uyasithanda. Ayizange yenzeke ke le nto kwiminyaka engaphambili. Those that were born earlier know what I'm talking about. Umntu wayezitutsalazela ade afike. Nina you are so fortunate, niyaxhaswa. Noba igusha iyagula uyaliluze kurhulumente. Ngabula kwakuthiwe indoda yabahlolokazi nguyise wenkedama, urhulumente igusha yamine intoni. So we must appreciate what government is doing for us. Uyasixhasa. So uyayenza loo nto, and urhulumente has set up policies to do exactly that. Kuba ufuna ubomi benu butshintshe bube ngcono. Kodwa akazuyenza yedwa loo nto urhulumente. Nina, this needs a willing horse. Siyavana ke. So basically zezo zinto. Kodwa ke mhlawumbi nithe apha ekusebenzini kwethu nazi into eniqondayo uba hayi mani lena bangayiphucula ngolu hlobo, hayi mani lena singayi-improva ngolu hlobo. Sizicela ezo inputs ke. That is why nilapha namhlanje. Ndenzela uba naxa nithe ngala mini siteblisha i-policy speech, nike nihlale nizinze kwindawo enikuzo, nimamele la policy speech, niqonde uba heke eyam i-contribution le benditshilo. Naxa sisenza umsebenzi singena kwii-areas, kwii-district nee-district, villages nakwiidolophu ezithile sisenza lo msebenzi, sifuna nazi ukuba besithe siza kwenza ntoni. Ningothuki xa nibona phaa. Xa ndizawuhlala phantsi ke at least ndiyichazile ke le nto uba sizowuthini. Le nto yee-tractors ndiyafuna uyithetha apha uba tractors is so expensive kakhulu and i-demand is very high. Ewe government has committed uba i-agriculture is the mainstay, backbone of this province. Kodwa kabikho nditshoyo kweli cala. Yabona? ethi mhlawumbi uba bendizicingele wena bekufanele uba i-department noba ino-2% emzisa apha kwa-agriculture kodwa ziyakhala kwazona i-department they don't get enough budget. So kwangoku ke sisezawusebenza ngobuncinci sinabo side sifikelele kuloo level yoba kuthiwe ke ngayo wonke umntu makasondele kutshiwo nje ngoku but ibudget ayikayivumeli loo nto. Okwesibini si-introduce senze baningothuki ke last year silaunche i-hand-handled tractors. Yile nto le demand ke ndithetha ngayo ngoba we can't afford to buy many tractors per financial year ziduru. So sathi hey make sizame le option ye-hand-handled tractors ezake ziqhutywayo zihamba ngedizili. Sakhe sizame u-intervene to strengthen le program yethu yelima lokulima naleyo home-based gardens. Siyavana mos. Ndizithetha nje ke zinto asawungena ke lamagosa am aphethe wamkelekile HOD ebelicelile uxolo uyayazi ba ixesha ndidlali ngalo ube nenye meeting enayo esifunayo hayi nasi isitulo sakho becana ususa lo bag heke kwenze basomanisa ungqumshela bekapha kwesisama isitulo. So ndithi ke si-introduce ezo tractors siqale safuna i-views nalapho siqombe hey sizayitrya sathenga nje zambalwa ndakhola sasithenge nje only 6 or 4 sinexhala asifundi yanazi nina ningavele nithi nisithuke nixelise ngonani ingxola gqithi ngalanto ezikuta kulanyaka ngathi yo kuzofuna singayi ngamandla kule nto ezi-hand-handled ingabuya i-response negative. But when we launched the program ye-hand-handled tractors sabona abantu bathi ngoba kunzima ufumana i-tractor ezinkulu and at least for some smaller hectares noko ingakwazi sathi siyangena kulo nyaka siyazifaka because sibone i-positive response ngela xesha besizilisa hayi noko ngathi basifuna bade basibuze noba benizithenga ndiqonda uba bayikhona bazimisela uzithengela ngokwabo because I know farmers can afford cha hey abafuni iphume xa seyingenile emtshinini yekeni mani laa nto kholelwani kulaa nto amagqobhoka athi xa unikezela uba wandisa ngakum ngonina nifuna uyigcina okokoko kanikhuphe nani sithi thina xa sizisele nani nithi tyhini hayi thina sawugalela ngale ngamafutshane ke sizele nje loo nto anditsho torho ningandivi kakubi anditsho uba xa nifuna ukhalaza ningakhalazi kodwa khalazani nisithi besibona ngolu hlobo umbi umntu osoloko ekhalaza ehleli nje uncokola naye akapheli ne5 minutes ecomplaina ndidla ngothi usube isisigulo eso qha akaziqondi. Kaloku awunawukhalaza kakhulu ngento oyazi kufuneka uthi mna ndicebisa uba kuthi sukucacisele before you can complain so much that ingathi akukho nto senzileyo. Siappreciate ke i-dedication and commitment that farmers have done kuba kule province niyayazi uba we are the only province enemfuyo i-head of cattle is more than 3 million apha Eastern Cape ngenxa yenu mafama. Okwesibini we are said to be producing the best beef in the country thina si-Eastern Cape so siyazidla ke ngaloo nto. Mandithetha nangale nto citrus uba I once read an article kwezi newspapers abroad uba the Eastern Cape has got the sweetest orange ever throughout the world. Zizinto ke mele basizingce ngazo thina ke ngosiyathula ngezinto esifana uba siyadlisela ngazo ngoku funeka noko ke sizame uthethe ukwenze ba nabantu abacinga ububi ngathi bazi uba ewe asibahlanga ncam kodwa zikhona noko izinto ezibalekayo ezinhle nezixhasa amafama nee-communities zethu apha e-Eastern Cape. Mhlawumbi mandiyithethe le nto yokubiyelwa ukuba oko sifumana HOD hayi ngeba ndiyalime ndicela ubiyelwa. We do such from a very limited budget. Kodwa mandiyithethe nento yobana ku-24-25 financial year kwabiwa gqithe eWOR Tambo District Municipality amasimi amaninzi. Ndirayithi Mr. Magyipi kodwa I must tell you here now uba zonke lamasimi ayebiyiwe ngurhulumente awanalo nelinye icingo kuba thina siphinde silithathe laa cingo siyobiya imizi yethu. Ngoku ingathi sikhamanzi ngevesti siyabhala ngapha bayacima ngapha kukho abafaka isikolo ngapha abanye bayasikhupha. Yenye into endithi ke noko nathi ipha ekuhlaleni funeka xa sihleli noba kusezindyaleni noba kusemingcwabeni intlanganiso nje ezinabantu khe sinqandane. Asizude sikwazi uyogada ezadrati. Urhulumente does not have enough budget. Andinawuhlala phantsi ke ndingayithetha ngile yobiwo lemfuyo. Andizuyithetha le FMD kukho i-presentation. Sizenzile i-awarenesses still asika-satisfy wonke umntu. Le yobiwo lemfuyo. Nditsho qho xa ndikwezi ndawo ukuba xa kubiwa imfuyo, mna ndizalelwe eHeshele elalini yasePhelandaba kwaKhontsiwe. Ekhaya ke ngoku kulapha eNtabethe ndigodukela khona. Ndingunolali. Into yami kule nto yobiwo lemfuyo ithi asoze kusuka inkwenkwe umfana okanye indoda yaseHeshele kulaa lali yasekhaya enamba 2 iyoba inkomo, igusha okanye ibhokhwe zakuqumbu. Ngeke. Angeke. So njengabantu abafuyileyo niyazana elalini. Futhi niyazana kodwa kukho umuntu ofuyileyo neegusha eziyi-200. Unjanje uyathengisa veki neveki. Kodwa u200 wakhe akehli. Anina amafama anike nibuze emfondini. Unini uthengisa kutheni lakho inani oko lime ndawonye. Lilonke le nto yobiwo lemfuyo ukufa kusembizeni. Until we get to a point yoba sike sijongane thina abantu bafuyileyo ngoba kamandi sicheba ndawonye sidipha ndawonye siyazana. Wathengisa kangaka mfondini kodwa inani lakho alehli kutheni. Asinawukwazi uyenza laa nto. Ndike ndapha kwakumkani uMhlonto kwamunicipality ndinentlanganiso phaa namafama eholweni. Bachaze ke inhlungu. Ibuhlungu laa nto. Ibuhlungu, people were crying tears. I mean literally. Ibuhlungu. Bade bathi MEC siyacela kwakubuwe inkomo eziyi-250 ethe go ngala mini. Bandikhombisa le ntaba ziye ziqhutyelwe kuyo. Bathi ke hayi mosithina laa nto sithatha uba i-crime. And xa i-crime ayikho kwi-competence yethu as i-department, sisebenza no-SABS ukukhangela abantu ababileyo. Mamelani ke. Bathi ke besawucela MEC oko busithengela amahashi. Ndiyaqala zange ndive uba i-department kuzo zonke into ezenzayo ayikidithenga amahamsi for i-transport. Because amapolisa athi sinengxaki yoba imoto zethu bazibona zisamisa and imoto zingakwazi unyuka entabeni ziyokhangela ezi nkomo so that sibamba aba bantu imigudu. Still sisokorisa urhulumente ngento. Yabona urhulumente mosinceda nina. Sincedana sodwa. Mna benzawuthi ma-Afrika make simanyaneni. Ndiyayiqonda le nto uba kukho abafuna imali ngendlela engalunganga. Kodwa man ibuhlungu laa nto. Ndikhuphe igusha phaa ku-livestock improvement program. Uthi omnye utata kum kungenzeka aba bantu bapha ezigusha akasenayo nenye kuba babe-aplaye ngonyaka ogqithileyo. It is so painful le nto because kuthiwa azisabiwa ngoziyathatha kuthiwa phuma uba uyathanda. Uphuma kwakho iyadlala ilophisi uqhekeza ubuchopho nje imfuyo yakho. So noko make sithi nani befundisi makanike nithandazele inhliziyo zabo aba bantu bakhohlakele kangaka mazithambe. Because to me yimfazwe le. Nina ningayithatha kancinci. Kungenzeka bakhona apho basebenzela khona aba bantu. Yimali etheni libangela ubude ufuna ubulala isizwe sonke. Uyabona? So bendisithi ke mandithi gqaba ngoba wayisilapha. Naxa siphithizela kwiingingqi zenu, ezifameni zenu, kwi-community zenu, sifuna naba bantu bahlala ezilalini ke bangezofama nabo bade bafikelele kwi-level. Mandiyithethe le nto yefama ba abanye ndinemfuyo eninzi ngosendifuna ifama. Thina ayisithi abanizikezela ngefama silelisebe. Siyavana mos. Urhulumente une-departments ezininzi. So i-department ka-land reform yiyo eku-aplaywa kuyo ize inikezele ngefama. Ayisithi kodwa xa abantu benakho ukubuza siyakwazi ubacacisela side sibadibanise namagosa. Xa ngaba ke ngoku anilungi phaa kwezafama xa senicelile ndicela ningabethi kuthi esiqwini noko. Niye kulaa ndawo apho kufele khona inkomo. Inoba sube seyinkomo ngelothole ngoku. Ngoba ayikho singethanda uba ningazifumana kangangoko. Kodwa xa besithetha nominister wakwa-land reform utshilo uba uzawukha abe kwi-drive yokukhupha ii-farmers ngoku athengisela abantu. Ilishwa nje elinye into yobana abazifumeneyo abanye abazisebenzisi. Abanikwe abanikwa ihagu babesenza ibhrayi every week zathi zawuphela baphinde bezapha kurhulumente bathi sicela ihagu. Uyabona ke zeza zinto ke ngozibangela uba noko sicinga fanele hey hayi kodwa umsebenzi wethu awuducace ncam because kukho abantu abangazimiselanga okanye bazimisela into nabenza ngenye indlela. Sicela ke ngokusonke sithanda uba honest wethu. Sithanda uba nenyani kwenzela uba urhulumente le migudu ayenzayo nezibhajethi azichitha kuni ade abone ukuba umsebenzi wakhe uphucukile. Ndiyathemba ukuba ndisho kukho le nto imbalele esifumene ngo-24 nango-25. Besinowuthanda uba besinaso esasitshixo semvula simane sisilight siphinde sicehlise kulinywe kade kulo nyaka kupheleleyo ngenxa yoba imbalela ibisixakile sonke. Bendide ndicela abefundisi ezicaweni kanikeni ithandazo nani ndiyanazi uba ningamagqobho okuninzi lwenu. Kwi-item yomthandazo yiceleni imvula. Ndiyayazi ke kwezinye indawo ukuthi oh mem le mvula imkisa izindlu. Hey thina singamafama kaloku umsebenzi wethu uyawuthi uzucace. Nam uPremier uba abantu abavuna nguzothi uPremier Consol kanti ubusenzani kule department. So funeka sizame ke ukuba sisebenzisane simanyane sisapotane. Urhulumente athi ezonixhasa afike etyeni ndixhasa abantu abavanayo. Ndicinga uba kwanele oko bethu nani. Kungenjalo wakrazulo waphola. Ndingathetha litshone umthetho wami ndingumvundle ndiyathetha nje kuba ndiqeshelwe ukuthetha kule ndawo ndikuyo. Ndihambe ndithetha ndicebisa ndincedise ndimamele ndithethe. Ndiyabulela kakhulu Mr Qoqwane.
Sibulela umphathiswa siphinde simphe izandla kwakhona bethu. Yeah, I think the Honorable MEC has outlined it clearly why are we here today, and as I had said earlier on that as she prepares to present her policy speech, she felt it necessary that we should have an engagement of this nature to allow participation and suggestions to come from the stakeholders as well. She did articulate some of the programs, which I will actually be articulating them in detail in the next few minutes. Honorable MEC, we had credentials and apologies. All I can say is that there were no written apologies. And we've seen quite a number of stakeholders that were invited right across the province. All districts are represented here. Farmer organizations are well represented here. Commodity associations are also represented. We even have ECDC is also here. Water and sanitation is also here. Walter Sisulu University is also here. Fort Cox is also here. So in terms of beyond the stakeholders that we would have invited in terms of the farmers and all of that, we also have got people beyond that have attended. And I think we care from 1 or 3 of program. No, thank you very much. Because yeah, I've got no choice. Thank you. Ubiza abantu eThekwini uzawugqiba uphinde uzityele itheko lakho. The next engagement as we drive this is to bring a high-level presentation on the overview of the sector at large and how it has been performing, and probably articulate a little bit on the programs of the department as Honorable MEC had already started that. Just a few seconds while I'm connecting this. I will be running this presentation, which looks at the Eastern Cape Agricultural Economic Review and Outlook, as well as the programs that the department is driving to respond to these issues. We decided that because data is very important to drive decision-making, information is very important, and especially to assess where are we and where we are going. So the department felt it important because the data sources that we have in many instances are from such institutions as Stats SA, ACBs, and other sources of information. But you find that the data coverage, especially for provinces such as the Eastern Cape, may not necessarily be adequate. Hence, the department felt it necessary that we should contract an institution that is well known for generating agricultural data, which is known as the Bureau for Food and Agricultural Policy. So they've conducted this study, which will be continued for the next 5 years, but which we felt like we had to start with a number of few commodities depending on the resources that we had at that point in time. So it's a program that we'll be driving for quite some time, but it has brought some very interesting insights because, as we said, we wanted to review where are we at this stage as the province that everybody sees as a potential, as a food basket of the province, as a game changer of the province, as the Honorable MEC has said, as we begin to lose jobs in other sectors, especially the automotive sector and all of that. So this province does stand a good position to reclaim its status and also to salvage the province from what is going through. So we're looking at where we are, and also we looked, as I say, at an outlook of where we should be going, what we should be doing as government. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday, that agriculture is an ecosystem in the sense that you've got a farmer who has to produce and take things to the market. You've got government who has to support that farmer to make it there. You've got private sector which has to facilitate markets, improve competitiveness, and all of those things. So this study is out, it's been completed, they have already been published, and there are specific documents that have been issued to each of those. The Honorable MEC will be launching the outcomes of this study very soon for the public at large so that we can be able to access it and get to understand what is in the study. But basically, if I may start, in terms of the Eastern Cape economy and the jobs, the agricultural sector contributes about 3% to the economy of the province. But the agricultural sector is a very huge contributor when it comes to jobs because while we are only 3% in terms of the size of the economy, but we create more than 8% of the jobs. And the advantage in agriculture, as we've said in many instances, is that it can absorb labor right across the spectrum, from unskilled to highly skilled labor. So it opens better opportunities for everyone to participate in the sector. But one of the things that have come out interesting out of the study actually is the whole issue of the land that is currently underutilization in the province. I mean, we've got more than 1 million hectares that is classified as high potential, but we're only using 340,000 hectares of that land, so which is roughly 26%. So that was a very strong revelation in that we've got so much land, more than 1 million hectares, which could be producing at a high potential, but we're only using 29% of that. Hence, it is important that these are the things that we should be exploring as a collective as to how we can actually improve on that. The sector is growing, the agricultural sector, but it is stated that it is not growing at the same pace as the rest of the provinces. I mean, we are growing at 2.4%, whereas the rest of the province, of the country's agricultural sector is growing at 3%. But what is important is that if you take the agricultural sector in the province and compare it with other sectors in the province or with the rest of the provincial economy, the provincial economy is growing at 1.9%, but the agricultural sector has been growing at 2.4%. So there's something we can be proud of. While the province is stagnating, agriculture is growing and is actually outperforming the provincial sector in terms of its performance. But one thing that they are raising here is the whole issue of agro-processing, which I think for many instances, for a long time, we've had our focus mainly on primary production, but we've had very little focus on agro-processing. If you take at the jobs that are created under food and beverages, I mean, that sector at agro-processing of food and beverages wouldn't make it if it was not for the agricultural sector, which feeds into that. Textile, clothing, and leather is also another important sector when it comes to agro-processing, which is also fed by agriculture. Wool and paper products, maybe not, but wool is a very important sector. So as you see us sitting, focusing on primary agriculture, there's a huge input that we're making at an agro-processing stage, which we're not taking serious, which we're not investing more in it so that we can actually be able to drive that sector also very strongly. But what has been interesting out of this study is that certain sectors have been growing over the years. And it's interesting to note that soya beans is a growing sector in this province. It's a growing sector in this country as well. South Africa for a long time was an importer of soybean, but we are reaching a stage where we are becoming an exporter of soybean. And this province has got a very huge potential for producing soya. We've got very good soils, very good conditions for producing soya. And soya has got a long-term effect in the sense that, or a ripple effect in the sense that it feeds into the livestock industry, it feeds into the poultry industry and all of that. So it's one sector that we need to really focus on in terms of us supporting this. Soft citrus also have been growing very significantly over the years. Lemons, there's a very good story to tell about lemons in this province. Linking to what Honorable MEC was saying, I never knew that lemons can be tasty, but this province produces one of the most tastiest lemons in the world, actually. So there are also other sectors that are also growing as we go through this. But also, if important, is the sectors that have been growing tremendously over the years, as I've said. Poultry, we are not there yet because what we eat is still less than what we produce. But there's a very huge potential for poultry in this province, and there's huge potential for poultry in this country because the latest studies have shown that actually South Africa produces poultry more efficiently than most of the countries in the world. It's only Brazil that does better in terms of production efficiencies. We are good at producing poultry one way or the other as this country. So this is something we need to capitalize on. Pigs have been growing as well. But one of the things that is worth noting, and it's always important as we decide how do we drive the livestock sector in the province, if you're looking at cattle, sheep, and goats, the number of animals that our people are having, a large proportion of them are sitting between 1 and 10. And that's where your limitation comes, because if you've got less than 10 animals, you simply don't have excess animals to sell, which is always a problem why we're fighting with people about why are you not taking your cattle to the market and all of that. If that person out of 10 animals sells 2, he has lost 20% of her asset base. And it's going to take him some time before he can actually recover from that. So this is just one of the things, but this is just one sector that has been sort of well articulated in the study as well. One thing that you can never take away if you're looking at the Eastern Cape, if you know what Transkei looked like or what Ciskei looked like in the map, you can clearly see it from that map as well. The red dot will tell you where Transkei is, where Ciskei was, and that is where subsistence agriculture is currently practiced in many parts of the country. So that remains also another important area that we need to focus on as we go forward in this study. We'll just take a brief look on citrus, because citrus is a very strong commodity in this province. We are second to Limpopo in terms of volumes, and in fact, we are the largest in terms of the area under citrus, but we are second in terms of volumes that are actually leaving this province or leaving the country for export markets. I think that's very important. But one other thing that came out of this study is that actually our yields are actually better off than many of the provinces. On the grapefruit, we are, if you take the straight line, which is blue, that's what the country is. But if you take the tall green bars, that's the Eastern Cape. So the Eastern Cape is actually outperforming other provinces and the country at large in terms of the cartons that we export per year on grapefruit, on lemons, on mandarins, on navels, and valencias. So there's something that this sector is actually doing very well, and an opportunity that actually rests in this province that we need to actually capitalize on and improve. Sandys River and Patency exceed the industry average in terms of the number of exports of cartoons per year. That is just data that was taken in the last year. So like I said, this province is actually sitting on very good potential on a number of things, but we're just not getting there in terms of realizing that. Even if you're looking at the forecast going forward, these two industries, especially the citrus industry, is positioned to grow tremendously. In fact, they are saying that most of our lemon trees currently are less than 5 years old, so meaning which they still have got production cycle for the next 20 years and as such. And one of the things that they are saying out of this study is that this province should consider value addition facilities for citrus, where you're taking your low quality citrus and convert it into other opportunities like fruit, juice, and all of that, anything that links to that. So there's something that we need to consider very seriously going forward, because we're still gonna have more citrus coming in. So what do you do with your low quality citrus? This is where it's important that we should actually be focusing on those. Another thing that they also looked at, the support that was supported to black producers, especially on citrus as well, where you've got about 2,680 hectares that were supported by the Jobs Fund, amongst others, and 1,989 of those are actually at the age of bearing fruit at this stage. As well, supported was also the deciduous fruit, 490 hectares, of which 364 hectares is actually at a production stage. So if we were to improve efficiencies on those sectors, improve the capacity to produce in those sectors, it's interesting that citrus alone from black farmers can grow up by more than 393%. It's unrealistic. It would grow up 3 times in terms of what it is currently sitting at this stage. The deciduous fruit would also grow up 2 times if we were to improve production efficiencies in those orchards that are currently under production. But some of the thoughts that are coming out of this is the need for support for emerging producers, especially in improving pack-out rates and accreditation to access export markets. Development is always necessary. Unlocking of value addition, as I've said, is an opportunity, but this is where it ends, because at the end, somebody has to come in. Import logistics, harbors, ports, and all of those things, which this sector is not directly responsible for, but it's important that other departments come in and deal and assist us in those things. Market access, tariffs, and protocol negotiations, which are some of the things that we're currently going through now. This is where we need to put more effort in addressing those. Poultry, as I've said with poultry as well, is that we are eating more chickens and eggs than we actually are producing. But we are efficient in terms of producing those. So there's a huge potential that we need to undertake that. But the analysis is the poultry industry at this stage is highly integrated and is driven by big players who actually drive the entire value chain, from hatcheries to growing the chickens to eggs and all of that, to even abattoirs and such in certain instances. Because you realize if you go to such enterprises such as Anchor, you realize everything is more like a closed circuit. From the farmers, from the farms that produce the chickens, to the chickens that are slaughtered at the end, to the logistics of bringing those chickens to the market. So it's a big market, but it is highly integrated. But there's an opportunity that we also need to provide our small farmers to also play a very active role in this regard. As I've said, competition-wise, we are doing very well as this country when it comes to poultry. But then there are things that we need to address, like animal disease risks, which is a high problem in the poultry industry. We need to optimize our carcasses so that we produce more meat than feathers, if you were to put it that way. And we need to accelerate growth by looking at different production opportunities. Soya beans and maize, as I've said, here we seem to be doing very well, and we seem to be sitting on a gold mine. On a gold mine in the sense that, like I said, we may not eat the soya itself, but it does activate other sectors within the industry for them to perform better. We've seen substantial growth in the grain sector as well, and yellow maize remains predominant. We had a big challenge with this, especially as the department, because we're challenging our farmers. Why do they grow yellow maize more than white maize? because we had these rural enterprise development hubs where we wanted to convert this maize into meal and other products, into food products. But our farmers are stubborn. They've stuck to the yellow maize because for one reason or the other, they've been able to convert that yellow maize into animal products. They feed it to their cattle, they feed it to their sheep and all of those things. So sometimes you must respect how people think and how people see things. And as a result, even this study is seeing a very huge potential in us growing the maize sector, expanding on the maize. Because as I said, it will help us convert those cattle into meat. It will help us convert those chickens into meat. So it's just one of the things that we need to stick to. We've seen substantial growth over time, and we're just looking even at the data that we get from the Crop Estimates Committee. I mean, 10 years ago, what was classified as commercial maize in this province was only 20,000 hectares. If you were to look at this year's data released in May, we're sitting at 36,000 hectares. And that is something that we've driven with the partners, who I think some of them are with us here today, who have driven the commercial side of maize by aggregating communal areas into commercial entities. So that has been very substantial, and that has been very important. Soybeans are sort of isolated at this stage where they are, because if you were to look at the next map, the small portion of soybeans, that is the blue area over there, it's where they are currently, there's currently significant growth of soybeans there. But as we've said, there's a huge potential that we need to explore there, because agroecologically, we've got all the potential when it comes to that. And the forecast is also good, because if you're looking at the long bars on the other side of the graph, you can see that these commodities will be growing over time. We are improving in yields, we are improving in production, we are even improving in the area that is currently under production. So these are the things that we need to look at. I will not go into detail because the study is available, this presentation will be made available, and we'll be sharing some of these going forward. But as we've said, maize is a key ingredient in animal feed, contributing from 65% to 80% of typical feed rations, depending on the type of feed. So there's a significant potential for feed consumption when including all the markets that we have at this stage. So we are seeing grain, especially maize, including soya for that matter, as a huge potential, as I said, that will be converted into the other commodities. Beef and sheep, beef we know very well. As MEC had, we've got good quality beef, we've got the largest number of animals, but our contribution overall is very minimal. I think we're sitting, if you're looking at the graph on the, should be on the left-hand side to you, the Eastern Cape is the strong blue bar compared to the other provinces. I mean, we're not doing very well because our output is very limited. But the limitation is that is the lack of in-province finishing and processing capacity. We've got them, we breed them, but we just can't finish them. We just can't convert them into beef. I think that's where the maize story comes in, so that we can be able to feed into the beef. So we've got a huge issue there that we need to attend to. Sheep is especially from the meat side, is becoming a dying commodity in a way. In fact, if you come from the rural areas where we stay, because there's no one who can afford it. It's simply too expensive. And even the volumes now have declined as well. So I think what we are harvesting more from sheep is wool than meat, because mutton has just become unaffordable. And then, as we said, there is a huge value addition potential in the province. If we strengthen the grain, then we should be able to convert most of those animals, because what is the limitation now is the long distances from the major grain producing areas that limit feedlotting profitability. Because your feedlot will do well if you are within a maize production area. Now, if your maize is produced elsewhere, you still have to travel hundreds of kilometers to deliver that feed for feedlotting. Then it actually eats on your gains or whatever benefits that you are going to get in that regard. So we're not doing very good when it comes to feedlots. We're not doing very well when it comes to, we've got quite a number of abattoirs as well, But before it lands at the abattoir, it must first have been finished and prepared elsewhere. So that's one thing that we need to do more. And the one thing that becomes a serious threat here is what we are sitting with at this stage. The livestock industry is highly threatened by diseases. I mean, the whole red meat market is on its knees now, including dairy and all of that, because of the foot and mouth disease. So that remains a very huge challenge in us in managing those disease outbreaks. The risk environment has been analyzed in this study. As I'm finishing the review and outlook sort of part of it, one of the biggest risks remains animal disease and lack of biosecurity. So the long bar on top there shows us that our biggest risk at this stage is disease outbreaks. And these disease outbreaks are not only limited to animal diseases only, because even crop diseases as well, fall armyworm, African armyworm, and all of those outbreaks that usually come from time to time. At some stage, we even had a scare of Gos's wilt. You don't want to have that in your province. You don't want to have that in the country at all, because it will decimate your crop industry completely. The weak economy of the province is a threat to us at all times. Breakdown of critical infrastructure, we all know, but there's quite a number of risks that are facing this sector that we need to look at. But looking at the outlook going forward, like I said, the sector is looking good. The sector is promising. And I think one of the things that came as a surprise is while everybody was worried about the USA tariffs and all of that, all of a sudden our citrus industry that year had a bumper crop. I mean, they exceeded the volumes that they thought they were going to export. So meaning which there are more markets that we need to be looking at and trying to export in the province, more than just the US market. Africa remains a very strong market. But briefly, how has government responded to these issues? If I will just gonna run through this very quickly. Government has got 3 strategic priorities in the 7th administrations: inclusive growth and job creation. And the second one is reduce poverty and tackle the high cost of living, the things that Honorable MEC had spoken to earlier on. And then as government officials and the state itself must be capable, must be ethical, and it must be developmental. So we must have these programs that are developmental in nature. In this province, we decided to have what is called key integration areas in an attempt to avoid departments standing on their own. And then these key intervention areas, this department is leading a key intervention area that is known as food security, land reform, and agriculture commercialization. We are supported by a wide range of departments that play a critical role. The land reform in the department is part of that. All the SOEs are part of that key integration area, and the various departments are part of that key integration area. We contribute to anti-poverty and sustainable livelihoods. We contribute to inclusive economic growth by the nature of our industry. This is an economic industry, so it has to contribute to inclusive economic growth. We contribute to infrastructure, in particular infrastructure that relates to our farmers, so that's one of the areas that we contribute to. Honorable MEC spoke at large about this. The whole issue that 20% of households in the province face severe food insecurity, especially in areas like Sarapartman, Amatole, Alfred Nzo, and Nelson Mandela Bay. And one of the things that we were first shocked by these results, but we realized that the influx of people to huge metros and all of that, actually, basukana nandlala yabo pha ezilalini, bazoyifaka pha ezimetro. So xa eza metro zijongwa, kufanele kuhluphekile pha kwimetro, kanti ke ndim ndisuke nendlala yasemqanduli, ndaza nayo apha emetro. Kuba bengicimba ke amathuba amahle alapha ekhona apha emetro. So there are just some of those things, but it's a very huge problem. As Honorable MEC said, we were taken up by the South African Human Rights Commission when children started dying of malnutrition. And the question was, where was agriculture when kids started dying of malnutrition? So we were asked to respond on this. And as Honorable MEC said, at that time, even 116 kids died because of malnutrition. It's just unacceptable. And this issue of malnutrition, if you listen to the South African Human Rights Commission when they tell you how many rights have you violated for that kid, because if that kid has not developed well up until 3 years of age, then the rest of his or her life is damaged. She will never recover. We're just joking about stunting and all of that. And it becomes a very huge problem. But the future of that child is affected completely. So the Human Rights Commission actually did make some recommendations. As I said, that it said that the whole issue of malnutrition on kids is a human rights violation, and this department must support small-scale farmers. We must implement community gardens to assist in that. And we seem to be talking that language in terms of what they expect from our strategy as well. And we've got one of the provinces with the highest number of people that are involved in agriculture. Agriculture people have seen it as a solution to their problems, but the big problem with our people being involved in agriculture, if you follow those bars, you shouldn't have the black or navy bar large. It should be small, because that is producing for own consumption. So that just demonstrates the subsistence nature of our people that are involved in agriculture. They produce to eat, they don't produce to sell. You should actually be sitting more on the orange side, where you're actually producing for sale. But that's not where we are at this stage. So we've got a large number of our people that are involved in agriculture as a survival mode. And interestingly enough, we also have got the largest number of people that have got access to land. 67% of people in this province have access to land, but only 37% of that land is put into production. So the challenge still remains. We've got, naturally, God has blessed us with land, but to put that land into production, that remains our huge challenge. Honorable MEC has spoken about this Silima Logulima, which is a program that seeks to take people back to how Africans actually managed issues of food security, where people would all contribute with whatever they have. And this will be, it's an annual program where we'll be expecting people to, we want to position themselves as service providers for the department. That is not the case. If a department is issuing whatever package it is issuing to support the Katezi 20, so we now who have shown interest, we hope that we will support another 20 gardens so that we've got 40 gardens under production. So when we're asking traditional leaders, NGOs, NPOs, all the organizations in the society to be part of this, we're not positioning service providers. I think there's been a mistake, people thinking that, let me apply for a Lalima Logulima so that I'm a service provider at Department of Agriculture. No. In the sense of Ilima, you are expected to bring your own thing to expand that production. If the money that government provides per household garden is not enough, the part of Ilima is you contributing to that to increase on that. Because when we started the household food production program, we would choose those people that are called to be indigent household. As a result, you couldn't see where we were going, because in a village, you'd only have 2 households supported or 3 households supported. So to Honorable MEC, she wants to see 20 gardens in a community under production. Minimum, 20 is the minimum. You can go as far as you like in that regard. So that is very important. But we're also saying that as we drive commercialization, the commercialization, we started a program of a commercialization of 100 farms, which we think is a very important program. Irrigation is another gold mine that we're sitting on in this province, so we need to do that. But there's another program that government is also introducing as well, the government procurement of agricultural products. We've got school nutrition, we've got social development, near food packs, we've got hospitals, we've got Defense Force, we've got correctional services who all use food from time to time. But most of that food is not sourced from our farmers. So there's a very strong intention by the government of the Eastern Cape that we should drive this program. I will be running fairly quick on some of these because, but as we say, if you were looking at the areas that were red on the map, one of the biggest challenges there is the scale that each individual owns. Whether is it a garden, whether is it in Tsimi or whatever it is, but you're just unable to stand on your own. So we've been driving this commodity value aggregation, which we think is very important. And it's a program that we're driving, supported by the SRDA as well, in terms of supporting our farmers to get finance to be able to aggregate and to drive those programs. It has worked very well when it comes in the wool. And it's one that has also sort of promoted our grain and moved our position in terms of grain production. Irrigation remains a very huge challenge. We've got more than 10,000 hectares that can be irrigated in this province, but only less than 4,000 or roughly about 4,000 is under production. So it's a huge challenge that we should actually be looking at. But we realize that due to the dynamics in the irrigation schemes, especially those that we have, we need to look at the regulatory framework so that people who are in the irrigation scheme, it's clear what their roles are, what the responsibility of government, and how they actually are managed within that. And as we go forward, we're looking at bringing back those shared services so that within a scheme, you've got a mechanization facility, you've got a processing facility, and all of that. So that has become very important. We know where the schemes are. And then I'm just going to talk very briefly about this government procurement program, of which there's about 4 billion that is spent by the province annually on food in the facilities that I had mentioned, whether they be hospitals, be they be schools, prisons, and all of that. But most of that food is actually purchased from outside the province. Even the local schools at a village, they still go and buy their food from Boxer or Spar or all the like. So government has actually instructed provincial treasury to actually look at the regulations, because government regulations are very stringent, to actually look at the government regulations and allow the opportunity for farmers to supply the government facilities with food. And this department has actually positioned the SRDA to be a driver of that program. So the SRDA has started going around, seeing who are these potential suppliers that we have, what volumes can they supply, what volumes does health require or education require. So we're already looking at such products as milk. I mean, Amadlelo Dairies alone produces more than 16 million liters of milk a day. You've got irrigation at Zanyoko, you've got irrigation at many places. You've got irrigation in Port St. John's, you've got irrigation everywhere in the province. So these are the people that are being positioned for that market. As I said, it's linked to the earlier one, where we're talking about the whole issue of how can we stimulate our poultry production. We are driving a program of import substitution. We've got partners that are already participating in that as well. But this has become very important, the whole issue of biosecurity. The FMT scare has really demonstrated that we need to... Thank you very much. So as we say, we need to strengthen biosecurity. It is a huge limitation. Now we've got many countries, Dr. Mngata will tell you, that have already banned our meat products because of the foot and mouth disease. There are markets that we can't penetrate on the citrus as well because of their stringent phytosanitary precautions. So these are the things that we're looking at, and these are the things that Honorable MEC will be announcing on when she presents her policy speech, because there are programs that are being developed to actually assist us to penetrate those other markets. So biosecurity has just become a very important thing. And I know Dr. Mngata is worried with all of us sitting here if how many of us are coming from farms that have got FMT. So by wrapping each other's shoulders here, and we'll take that FMT to our farms. So there are those concerns, and somebody just said, Lende biosecurity is interesting. It's interesting how we were so biosecurity conscious during COVID, of which we threw away all those protocols after COVID. I mean, somebody says biosecurity is a lifestyle. You must live to be biosecure. So these things are very, very serious. I won't tell a story. I was quarantined by myself by that doctor. I went to another province. When I came back, he said, you won't leave your home for the last 3 days, for the next 3 days, because you broke quarantine facilities. We cannot run away from the issue of climate change, the management of natural resources, land rehabilitation. More than 1.6 million hectares of this province is degraded. That is 10% of the surface area of this province is in Ndonga. Is degraded, has lost vegetation, has lost everything. So it's very important that we work hard to minimize this. The department will provide transversal interventions such as research, technology development, and innovation. Youth incubation, we're driving it with Fort Cox, and we've partnered with ECDC, National Youth Development Agency, and all of that. Agriculture training is very important. We cannot do away with MAGWA and tea estates, which are part of this project, or which are part of this department. Cannabis and hemp industrialization is very important as new industries that we need to exploit. But as we have already said many times, the Department of Agriculture will not walk this journey alone to success, up to success. I mean, one of the biggest challenges in this province is access roads. The ability to take produce from farm to the market is a very huge challenge. We are working very closely with the Department of Transport. We fight many times about this because which roads they prioritize versus our roads and all of that. I think I will leave it at that in terms of all the programs that I had to state and explain where the sector is. So there are huge opportunities ahead of us in this sector if we work together and we provide the relevant input. Program director, who is me, thank you very much. I program directed myself.
Good morning to everyone. My apologies for coming late. Let me, I don't want him to share the joke that was made on child malnutrition. So when this subject was presented in Pretoria, one gentleman told us, in a room like this, all those that are not so tall must stand up. And we thought he's going to give us some accolades. He then says, this is the example of standing. And I realized that the DG of some department was so angry to a point where he attempted to call him to order. But he was just being very enthusiastic, making an example. It was not appropriate, but I think he made his point. Firstly, I would want to acknowledge some of the guests that have joined us. First, I would like to acknowledge utata abangabefundisi bethu balapha ngaphakathi namhlanje. Sinotata uBishop Jackie Bokoloshi Chaplaincy. Sibe naye utata Reverend Desmond Stemele. I would like to acknowledge all the farmer associations that are here without singling them one by one. I would also want to acknowledge Professor Nganyo from WUSU, who have just joined us. Maybe if Prof, you can just raise your hand so that people can see you. Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, Prof, who's at the back. I would also want to acknowledge the leadership from the local government sphere. Councillor Mngaso from Amatole DM. Thank you very much. Councillor Mnute from the BCM. It's probably outside, but in absentia, I will acknowledge I think I've done all the acknowledgement. Maybe let me also acknowledge the CEOs that are here. The CEO of the HRD, Mr. Somjala, is here. The CEO of, or acting CEO of Amadlelo, Mr. Obongwane, is here. I mentioned it because Mr. Kokwana spoke about Amadlelo producing 16 million liters a day and positioning them for the government procurement of agricultural products. I thought, let me quickly do that. Honorable MEC, I spent last Friday, the whole afternoon, in a webinar with Mr. Somjala, Nwandile Slop. He wrote a book, Uncomfortable Truth About Agriculture. One of the things that is warning from the beginning of that book is that government tend to talk and talk with no action, spending a lot of time in meetings that do not lead to anything. So he says we must act. But again, in the same book, he deals with farmer associations. So if you look at chapter 3 of that book, it's dedicated to farmer associations and how many are they, the lack of collaboration amongst themselves that could help government to improve. So I see, as Mr. Kokwana was presenting the economic profile of the province and where we're moving, one of the areas that that book deals with is the land reform farms, which are targeted here. Those land reform farms in the province, total of them is about 293. They've done an assessment of 253 of those farms. The total hectarage that we have, which probably is part of the million rand that is high potential, is just over 232,000 hectares. Huge. The majority of them have at some point received what we call recap, and some of them, they are part of what we call the land development support from national government. So I thought just for now, because as we continue the conversation, we'll have to demonstrate at what point do we turn those farms or translate their potential into real benefits, not only to the farm owners, but to the province at large. So I'll be just giving you the snippets of what comes out from that study. And the young man has promised, requested a formal engagement with ourselves based on the input that we have provided in the study. So we'll be coming down to the province to engage with us. I know a lot of farmers have met with them. Most of them were in that webinar. They provided a valuable input that we have taken into account. It's always difficult to bring Dr. Mnat because he will give us, I think this time around, he will give us hope because at least we are vaccinating. Before, it was always difficult to call him because he would tell you about the spread of the disease without the vaccine. But now there's a vaccine, he will give us an overview of the vaccine. Doug, I would want us to be as brief as we can because I think we need to give a lot of opportunity to farmers to engage with us. Surely, Honorable MEC wants to hear more from the farmers than our presentation. So you'll have about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Taking the floor now is Dr. Mngata, who is the Chief Director for Veterinary Services in the province. Thanks.
Thank you, teacher. Honorable MEC, all distinguished guests, HOTs, and CEOs, colleagues, good morning. I'm just going to be giving a talk on foot and mouth disease. I'm going to look at an overview. I'm going to try to have a shortened version. FMD is a huge, important disease. We all know, trade sensitive. Excuse me? Oh, okay. There we are. It's on slideshow now, isn't it? It's not. You're right. Okay. No, okay. As I was saying, that FMT is one of the trade-sensitive diseases. Once you have got an outbreak of a disease, the FMT, you immediately have fewer friends in the industry. Everybody wants to ban you. Bans you and say, no, we will not take your products. We will not take your products because they are afraid to bring into their own countries. Dairy industry, once there's FMT, you're looking at about 40% losses immediately. You still have got the losses of your production. You still have got losses that are coming from feed deaths, especially on calves. You still have got losses on animals that will not be producing much at that period, and you cannot move the animals around once you have been found to have FMT. I'll quickly show you the pictures of the lesions or what you see on animals that have got FMT. In between the foot, that's why it's called foot and mouth. It's in between the foot. You'll get interdigital, what is called utwane commonly. You'll also get on around the mouth. In this particular animal, if you look at the front, there's a grayish area. Those are the ones that you call them old lesions. That is the old ulcerations that they have. Whilst we are banned by most of the countries with the products that are produced in the country of animal origin, we still have some countries that are still trading with us, though the volumes have increased. We still have Jordan, UAE, Kuwait, and also closer to home, Mozambique also take huge volumes of animal and animal products from our country. That's the letter that we got from Zambia when they banned us. They wrote an official letter to our national department. That's Zambia when they also banned us. That's at their border case. They turned all the permits, even the ones that have already been issued. They didn't postpone. We first experienced FMT in the province in 2024 in Sarapatman, which we dealt with it successfully. Out of 78 farms that were involved, 76 of them, we have given them a clean bill. They are free of FMT. The other 2 years are also free of FMT, but we are awaiting laboratory confirmation of the results. Currently, the current outbreak, which started in around about December last year, up until now that we have got 80 cases. That is, we have got 80 positive cases. Out of those 80, 36 of them at Matole, that's the most affected area, followed by Alfredo. Alfredo, that would include Winima, Tikizela, local municipality, which is one of the areas that we have got major challenge. Those are the number of suspected cases, 134 in the province. And so far, with the vaccine that we have received, we have the first batch of vaccine that we received of 150,000 doses. We had vaccinated 110,000 animals. That was last week as of Wednesday last week. The number has moved on. We have also received additional vaccine, 152,000 vaccines from national. Out of that, we have taken 50,000 as it was agreed for the dairy industry, which is this disease is very destructive on those animals. This is the distribution throughout the province. It indicates where we have got the most cases. Now they're here on the central part, which just next to OR Tambo, which is in the Amatole district. What have we done? We have, as a province, there is financial support that came from provincial government, and we have placed an order for vaccine to the value of 55 million. We have also reprioritized within the budget of the department to buy vaccinators, medicine, to treat the animals in the community. additional to that, we have just put out an advert for employment of 8 state veterinarians, 25 animal technicians, and 30 community animal health workers. I think it's closing on the 20th of this month. That is to strengthen the team that is going to deal with the FMT. We also have got weekly meetings that we have with the communities. We call it Provincial Talk, and it includes all stakeholders, organized agriculture, local municipality, SAPs, sister departments such as DDIT, Water Affairs, Environmental Affairs, as well as the law enforcement agent. It also includes the private veterinarians, which are also are actively involved in vaccinating of the animals, especially in the dairy. We also are involved in the movement control, which we do roadblocks, sports roadblocks, checkout, and also we in partnership with law enforcement agents of the province. We quarantine the private farms, and unfortunately, it's difficult or it's impossible to quarantine the communal area. As indicated, there are no fences. Fences are gone, so there are no camps in which to isolate and quarantine the animals. We, as I indicated earlier, we have also received additional 152,000 doses, which we picked up last week Friday, and has been shared across the 6 provinces, 6 districts, based on risk. How much disease do we have in that particular area? There is a national strategy. We are working on a national strategy for containment, which is a 10-year strategy, broken down or being activated in phases. We have got phase 1, which we are currently in. This is going to take us a year. We're stabilizing the infection by vaccinating animals so that it doesn't spread further. And also have got phase 2, which will be the consultation, and we're focusing on doing buffer zones. We have already started doing buffer zones in the province when we've vaccinated about 60,000 animals in the Winnie Madikizela Mandela local municipality. No, I'm confused because I want to say Alfred Nzo. So that's where we are now. Where we are now, we are on still vaccination, but unfortunately, the vaccine supply is constant. But at this stage, we didn't get enough volumes to cover the big area the province have. We are hoping in the next batch, which we have been told there'll be 5 million vaccine doses will be received. We will be able to get more. Those are the priority areas that we have started it at Alfred Nzo we have indicated Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Matatiele, Mzimvubu local municipality, and also the dairies. We have covered the dairies, also the farms around the dairies, which we call them first layer farms. We have also covered Joe Kabi, Chrisani, and Alfred Nzo, and we're still going back to those areas. And we're also prioritizing vaccination around game reserve. We are worried that we don't want the infection to get into buffaloes. Once it gets to the buffaloes, we'll not be able to control it again. The buffaloes keep it, they don't show, but they remain the host of the virus. So they will constantly pass it on to cattle whenever they interface or they meet when they meet in the fences. These are some of the things that we have done as the awareness, having traveled throughout the province, advising people of the disease, and this is one of the sessions of the FMT that took place in Alfred Nzo, and also. If you look at the actual map, that we're showing, is showing the spread of the awareness campaign throughout the province. I think then the rest is the feedback from the farmers that we got in those sessions. think I will stop here, and thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Dr. Mngata. My name is Bogika Daiman, the HOD of the department. My apologies for not introducing myself. I thought Dr. Mngata will land on the fact that the province will establish a veterinary faculty at Forte. It will start in 2027-28. They will also develop a veterinary hospital for animals. And the cabinet committee have told us to start manufacturing vaccine for FMD at Fort Hand at Doni. And I'm glad that there are institutions of higher learning here. So they would, I think it's a big collaboration that we would want to have. I would want just government officials to stand up so that I can introduce them, so that farmers, when they are here, and maybe you will not have time to speak, but you can also know them. So I'll start with this row. If you can, Mr. Kokwana is the DDG in the department, followed by Mr. Best. Please sit down, Mr. Kokwana. Thank you very much. Mr. Best is the head of the ministry, Andisile Best. Next to him is Mr. Lungisa Sangela, who is the private secretary of the MEC. Then next to her is Ms. Babalo Mhlubulwana, who is the chief director strategy. Dr. Mngata, Dr. Cebisa Mngata, chief director of veterinary services, is well known. Mr. Atule Joke is the MEC spokesperson. Come, Mr. Nodola. Mr. Nodola, Bushlebezu Nodola is the director, Alfred Nzo. Then next to him is Mr. Zamile Majibi, Ubele from Ortambo, district director Ortambo. Next to is Mr. Mtobile Sunjika, is the district director of Jogabi. We've done with the government officials on this side. We don't have them here. Do we have them on this side? Yes. Oh, yes. Stand up, Dr. Dlova. Dr. Mzwanele Dlova is the district director, Krisani. And yes, stand. Oh, yes, Mr. Sali is the PLO of the Honorable MEC. And then on this side, do we have government officials here? Dr. Khozane, Vusumzi Khozane is the district director, Sarah Patman. Pamsi Sandla, Dr. Khozane, at least I'm taller than you. And then on this row, we have Dr. Zolek Antondin, who is the acting chief director, district coordination. Next to her is Ms. Bugio Majibi, who is the director for training, farmer support and training. And next to her is Ms. Nyameka Pongo, the district director of Amatole. If you can just sit down, Ms. Pongo. Then after Ms. Pongo is Dr. Silwana, Tembaka Silwana, who is the acting chief director, natural resource management. Next to her is Mr. Mfundo Makanda, who is the acting DDG for agriculture development services. So I thought it's important that all these officials are well known, so that when we come back, it will be an opportunity for farmers to raise questions, put inputs on the table. They will be taking all the notes, and if you are not able to speak, you can always talk to them. As we move here, they will put all their contact details there, so that you can, their telephone numbers, everything, so that you can contact them. And now I've been requested that we take a 30 minutes tea, and we will probably come back at, let's make it clear, let's come back at 11:20. Yes. No, it's 20 to 11. So I'm saying we come back at 20 past 11. Let's come back at 11. What I thought 20 past would be, but let's come back at 10 past 11.